Hello, everyone. I'm Pastor Misty Howick. I'm an ordained elder in the United Methodist Church, and I serve the congregation of New Song United Methodist Church. We're located in Surprise, Arizona, and yes, that's a real place, Surprise. And we are finishing up the book of Proverbs. This has been a very interesting look at this wisdom literature from the ancient Near East. And today we're going to read chapter 28 together. Right after I post this, I'm going to do chapter 29, but I'm breaking them up into two different recordings. So you'll have chapter 28, which was supposed to happen yesterday, and 29 today, again, catching up. I've realized throughout this entire program of doing this Proverbs devotional that it is really hard for me to do one chapter a day. It's really hard for me to do one chapter a day. So learning experience for me, and I apologize for anyone that put out that was a problem or a challenge. So thank you for being patient with me. Today I am actually going to be reading once again out of the Jewish Study Bible. I just appreciate the translation so much more than the NRSV-UE. It's a little bit more, has a little bit more imagery for me. So it is the Tanakh translation. It's by the Jewish Study Bible. Anyways, let's go ahead and read chapter 28. The wicked flee, though no one gives chase, but the righteous are as confident as a lion. When there is rebellion in the land, many are its rulers. But with a man who has understanding and knowledge, stability will last. A poor man who withholds what is due to the wretched is like a destructive rain that leaves no food. Those who forsake instruction praise the wicked, but those who heed instruction fight them. Evil men cannot discern judgment, but those who seek the Lord discern all things. Better is a poor man who lives blamelessly than a rich man whose ways are crooked. An intelligent son heeds instruction, but he who keeps company with gluttons disgraces his father. He who increases his wealth by loans at discount or interest amasses it for one who is generous to the poor. He who turns a deaf ear to instruction, his prayer is an abomination. He who misleads the upright into an evil course will fall into his own pit, but the blameless will prosper. A rich man is clever in his own eyes, but a perceptive poor man can see through him. When the righteous exult, there is great glory, but when the wicked rise up, men make themselves scarce. He who covers up his faults will not succeed. He who confesses and gives them up will find mercy. Happy is the man who is anxious always, but he who hardens his heart falls into misfortune. A roaring lion and a prowling bear is a wicked man ruling a helpless people. A prince who lacks understanding is very oppressive. He who spurns ill-gotten gains will live long. A man oppressed by blood guilt will flee to a pit. Let none give him support. He who lives blamelessly will be delivered, but he who is crooked in his ways will fall all at once. He who tills his land will have food in plenty, but he who pursues vanities will have poverty in plenty. A dependable man will receive many blessings, but one in a hurry to get rich will not go unpunished. To be partial is not right. A man may do wrong for a piece of bread. A miserly man runs after wealth. He does not realize that loss will overtake it. He who reproves a man will in the end find more favor than he who flatters him. He who robs his father and mother and says, "It is no offense," is a companion to vandals. A greedy man provokes quarrels, but he who trusts the Lord shall enjoy prosperity. He who trusts his own instinct is a dullard, but he who lives by wisdom shall escape. He who gives to the poor will not be in want, but he who shuts his eyes will be roundly cursed. And when the wicked rise up, men go into hiding, but when they perish, the righteous increase. So just a couple of comments on some of the verses. In this chapter of Proverbs, chapter 28, one, a lot of lifting up people who are being obedient. So obedient to God, obedient to the government. People will find an easier way if they are following the rules or following God, because there are consequences to not following rules. So there's a lot of lifting up those who are obedient. In here there is, some things that make you think. Verse 21 says to be partial is not right. A man may do wrong for a piece of bread. And so our notes here says, perhaps although partiality in judgment is not right, not even toward a poor person, a judge should remember that a person may commit a crime for bread and show some mercy. So it's talking about, there still need to be consequences, but maybe we can be a little bit merciful to those who are trying to survive. So that's one comment I thought was very interesting. Of course, verse 14, which is where we get our title for today's video, is happy is the one, or happy is the man who is anxious always. And I was like, oh my gosh, is this another like beatitude, like blessed are the, are the meek kind of thing? I don't understand how someone who is anxious always is happy. The comment here is that the word for anxious, or literally means fearing one's own sins and being willing to repent of them. So someone who is anxious is aware of their own sins and is willing to repent of them. So that's very interesting. That's how they interpret this anxious. But those who harden their heart fall into misfortune. So those who are not willing to be humble, those who are not willing to identify their own sins and work towards their removal, are going to fall into misfortune. And I can see that theme in this chapter as well through these little tidbits of wisdom. I can see that humility is lifted up. Let me see where else we have that. So the one that says, verse 9, he who turns a deaf ear to instruction, his prayer is an abomination. So for me, that's very similar to what we were just talking about. So those who decide that they are better than taking instructions from someone wiser or better, or obeying, or being humble enough to be instructed, their prayer and their desire is worth less because they're not doing what they need to do to be successful, or they're not doing what they need to do. They're not following instructions. They are turning away from instructions. And so when they go to pray, or when they ask for something, it means a little bit less. That's my interpretation. Let's see what the Jewish Bible says. It says, if one does not listen to instruction or Torah, God will not listen to them. It is possible that Torah here, unlike most occurrences in Proverbs, where it usually means parental instructions, means God's Torah. So that is your little tidbit from here. I'm trying to look and see if there's any other verses in here that stick out, that need a little bit of extra interpretation or extra wisdom. Yes, he who covers up his faults will not succeed, but he who confesses and gives them up will find mercy. So again, being humble and identifying, where you need to grow and what sins you need to work on is being lifted up here. Being dependable, that's being lifted up, will receive many blessings. Yeah, that looks like all of the themes that stick out to me in this passage, in this chapter. And the last one is, when the wicked rise up, men go into hiding, but when they perish, the righteous increase. And so that one's really interesting. The commentary here is, when the wicked come to power, people hunker down and try to make themselves inconspicuous. And when those rulers perish, the moral level of the society rises, and then people come out and they feel safe and they can share, their opinions, they can share their gifts, But when there is someone wicked that has come to power, they don't want to stick out, right? So they hide. All right, so that's chapter 28. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a second to read through chapter 29, and then I will be posting again live here on New Song so that we can read through chapter 29 together. And what that looks like is I read it. I'll probably be reading from the Jewish Study Bible, and then we'll work through just a couple of the verses to get some more clarification on possibly what it means to the people at the time, so contextually, and what it means for us. I hope you're finding some wisdom in here too. Perhaps one of these proverbs has stuck out to you and you're like, yes, that is the one that I needed to hear today. I'm hoping that you do. And it's very repetitive, but as I was talking to a Bible study, sometimes I heard people say we need to have that repetition. So maybe there's one that continues to stick out to you during this time as well. All right, God bless. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.